Hey guys, Lou here from l.ts Custom Woodworks. Today is another day. Last night I sprayed the sound and sealer on the coffee table. It was around 8:30, I think it was, when I had sprayed that. Today I want to get the finish put on. 3 coats of pre-cat lacquer. But before I do that, I'm going to start assembling the frame for the sofa table. And I also glued up the tabletop for the end table for that sofa table. It's another little small one that is going with that. But today I'm going to start assembling the frame. Shouldn't take long. And at some point I will start spraying the table. But I just want to get this frame put up quickly and go from there. Today is Friday, which to me Friday is... every day is Friday for me, or it's just another day, as I can say. There is no... people like Fridays because they don't have to work the next day, but in my world it's a little bit different. Every day is a work day. I just take days off whenever I need it. If I wake up tomorrow morning saying I don't feel like working, then I don't work. There's no set Monday to Friday. It doesn't work. It's never worked like that in my world. A little different. A little different. Okay, so I am going to start off with the... these are the legs. I'm going to use 2-inch pocket hole screws as well. Some 1.5 inch. I am going to start off with the top rail. See where we're at here. I got a bit of a late start this morning. I had some running around to do. Every day is running around with me and my phone non-stop in the mornings. And that is just another day. If I can get this coffee table finished up today, it can either go out tonight or possibly tomorrow morning. And that frees up a little bit of room here in the shop. We're going to flip this around and we're going to mark our... I like to go 2.5, 2.25 inches. And in that range, I find that it looks best. Let's go 2.5 on this one since it's so tall. And when I go 2.5 inches, I am bringing it, 2.5 inches is from the bottom of this, not the top. And I find it that seems to look the best when you do it that way. We're at the end of April going into May. Is it May already? Maybe it is May. And this is one side of the frame. It's the same, most likely the same design as the coffee table. Just the X's are going to be a little bit more thinner. They're, I think, going to be 3/4 of an inch as looking at the picture in the diagram. So I'm going to build another one like this. And we are ready to screw the sides together. Our weather's been pretty good this year. We had a great winter. Wasn't too cold, not a lot of water, not a lot of snow. I gotta say it was a good, so far it's been a good year that way, of course. The other way, not so good. And that takes care of that. Now we're ready for the sides. I'm going to swing this over this way. Now these are going to be 8 inches here. Let's take a look and see what we got. So I'm going to grab a clamp. And same deal as last time. We are going to clamp that. Set that up there. We'll bring this in. And we are ready to rock and roll. I should get a smaller clamp, but you know what? This is already done. I am going to. That is great. Bring that in. Bring that in. Now the bottom of this is going to get plywood, birch plywood. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. Just like that. This will get a primer coat before it's being painted. Now it's the whole thing that's going to be white, including the top. So and again on this far end. Now I can easily mount this top in now, but I am actually going to wait on that. And the reason for that is it's easier to move around the shop instead of lifting something heavy, because this isn't particle board, it's solid. So when I got to move this around the shop for a bit here, I can put the plywood on. In the meantime, I can do the X's and put the top in afterwards. That's not a problem. And we are good. We is your uncle, Christine is your aunt, and Bill's your sister. I'll get you a bigger shot here. This is looking great. Plywood on the bottom. Right across. That will be pocket hole screwed from underneath. Top goes on, and then we got our X's that are going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. That's going to sit in here. I believe I looked at the diagram. I glanced at it yesterday, the picture she sent me, and it looks like it's 3/4 of an inch. And I will do the same, the same method. Bring it over to the miter saw, hog out that center halfway deep. Do it on the other side as well. Sandwich them together, and bingo bango chicho chachi, we're cooking with bacon bits at this point. So, in the meantime, I can cut the plywood for here, or I can get started on that finish coat that is happening on that table. And I say, let's push this off to the side and start. Well, let's see. I'm going to see what, if I got a piece of plywood that will work here. If I got to cut a sheet of plywood, well, I'm not in the mood to lift up a sheet of plywood right now. 11 3/4. Then I'll just do it later. That's, and I have to cut a full sheet. And that, my friends, is bunk. Because I'm not in the mood to pull out a full sheet of plywood. So, what is the easiest way? Let's say, toss this over to the side. Let's get started on the finish coat on the coffee table. And that's what we will do right now. And get started on that. And then we're good to go. Bada bing, bada bang. So the table is complete, it's dry, and this is with 3 coats of pre-cat lacquer, and it is absolutely gorgeous. A lot of people, they ask me, I got a little bit of dust on here now, a lot of people ask me, how do you get your lacquer so smooth? When you're spraying, whether it's oil-based or waterborne or any kind of lacquers or any kind of clear coats for that matter, when you spray it, you need to finish that afterwards. As funny as that sounds, when you're spraying a lacquer, you get particles that fall from the air that sits on top of that lacquer, and you get that little bit of that grit that sits on there. When you're done, it's like painting a car. When you paint a car and you want that immaculate finish, they'll buff it. They'll shine it. Well, it's the same thing with furniture. When you spray a lacquer or any kind of finish for that matter, whether it's a high gloss or a low gloss or a satin or anything like that, you need to wet sand it. When it's finished, you need to wet sand it. Now, over the years, I found a way that I don't have to, I can skip that step. So what I do is I take whether you buy your lacquers in a 5-gallon pail or not, I buy mine in 5-gallon pails and I pour it into gallons. But when I do that, I filter it. Once I'm done filtering into the gallons, I'll use this container. And what I do is I'll fill it 3/4 full. Now this is a liter. I'll fill it up 3/4 of a way, and then the rest I'll mix it with lacquer thinners. When you add a lacquer thinner to your finish, it dries a lot quicker. So when I spray my finish, it's almost drying as it's airborne, if that makes sense on what I'm saying there. The more lacquer you put in, the faster it dries. So you have to experiment, play with your gun, whether you're using a compressor or an HVLP or anything like that. You need to find out where your sweet spot is to be able to spray it, but yet not leave an overspray as you're spraying, because it dries so quick. As it dries quick, whatever dust that falls on top is not going to stick to it. That's how you get a nice finish without wet sanding. If once in a blue moon I'll have to wet sand, but very, very seldom does that ever happen. If you have to wet sand, a little bit of dish soap, water, and a 2000 grit sandpaper. I use a 2000 grit sponge. I find that it's easier. And you go in one direction as you sand. Other than that, if you just experiment, play with your lacquers, add your lacquer thinners, balance it out. Sometimes they say it's 2-to-1. I don't measure that way. I just fill this up 3/4 and the rest I fill with lacquer. I mix it up real good and I'm good to go. I know my mixture because like I said, I've experimented so much with different lacquers and thinners, and whether it's you're using shellac or you're using waterborne. I don't use waterbornes because I don't think it's a strong enough finish. I think it yellows. It's not good with the sun scratching. It's not a hard material. I don't like using that. Some people, they'll disagree with me on that. I prefer to use the oils, the solvent based. I just think it's a better product. The smell is not better, but you know, as long as you mask yourself good enough, you're good to go. For this finish, I didn't wet sand it. I just put 3 coats, and I don't sand in between coats. The reason why I don't sand in between coats is because I use a sand and sealer. I noticed that if I don't use a sand and sealer, I do have to sand in between coats, and on top of that, I got to put like 6-7 coats. Once you use a sand and sealer and you sand that finish down, it's smooth like glass. Every time you put that coat of lacquer, you don't have to sand in between coats. I will take a compressor and blow the dust off in between coats, but that is as far as I go. And this is it's a glass mirror finish. It's a actual beautiful finish. So this is all ready to go. They're coming to pick it up within the hour. Now I'm going to get started back on the sofa table. I want to cut the piece of plywood for the middle, put the top on, make the X's. That's good to go. And then I'm going to start on the end table for that. And then that's pretty much ready for prime coat and paint coat. So we are going to get started on that today and see what we can get done throughout the day.